This podcast is sponsored by the Tollington Arms on Hornsey Road, a bubbly pub with a Thai kitchen home to thousands of Arsenal fans every season. Open daily from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. and from 12 p.m. on Sundays.
Good morning, good evening, and welcome to the Gooner Ramble. I'm not sure if you recognise my voice, but I'm Clive. I've been thrown in, late substitute, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain style, thrown in off the bench. Hopefully I can do a slightly better job. And today I'm here with my good mate Woz. Hey Moz, how are you?
Hello mate, I'm very, very good, thank you.
So me and you are holding up the fort today as the rest of the Gooner Ramble hosts and members are still recovering from the alcohol abuse they had at the weekend, right? So we'll give it a go, right? So, right, guys. So, Woz, talking about Sunday. I know you're, obviously a massive, keen, go to every game fan, right? So, what's the start of your day like?
It's a special day. We discussed it a lot midweek, and it's just a feeling that you don't normally have. You wake up at silly o'clock, you're stressed out in the flat. Can't wait to leave. I can't wait to get down to the ground. Get the train down there about 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday, having a beer on the train, getting looked at by the public like you're some sort of nutcase, which is always funny. But just think people, it's hard to understand that it's Derby Day, and we'll get down there nice and early, have a nice breakfast, set ourselves up for the day. And I should have known it weren't all going to plan out when somehow I managed to drop my whole breakfast on my lap in the cafe before I'd even had a proper beer, which was horrific. But it's just the nerves and the tension and the feeling of excitement. It's so many emotions involved in Derby Day, and I think it's got to a stage with the way it's been panning out last year. I think we don't want to lose this game, and for years we've had a number on Spurs, but recently during in the one-on-ones it's got a bit tighter, and especially with Pochettino in charge, we found it a bit more difficult. But it's such a great feeling, and there's people queuing outside the pubs at 10 waiting for them to open on a Sunday morning. It just ain't right. You're looking at everyone and they're all thinking, what's happening here? Why are we here? It's not human, but it's Derby Day, and
can't break the routine, can you? You can't break that routine.
Mate. Whatever time, if it was at 5:30, we'd still be down the pub. Not quite at 7, 8 a.m, but we'd still be down there waiting for it to open at 1 whenever it opens. And it's just the whole day and the whole experience for both sets of fans is cracking. But then we see the team news and we come into the game, and that's when it really starts getting real, and you know there's a battle on our hands.
When you saw the team, what was your gut telling you when you saw the team? Because it looked like our sort of Chelsea team. So what did you think? Yeah,
I didn't, like I discussed midweek, I didn't think it'd be too dissimilar. Obviously, it was gutting to not have Santi available. I was a bit alarmed when I saw the Spurs team, because I thought I could see what Pochettino was doing immediately, and he went for big, strong men in the middle of the park, and with the back three that Dyer sort of pushed in when they were on the advance, and they just sort of almost what Wales done, and just sort of we're going to leave Son and Eriksen to have the freedom of the park and have a solid base. And I was a bit worried that their two in midfield, Dembele and Wanyama, would become a three and would sort of get overpowered. But I always had the feeling that we could get in behind their fullbacks like we discussed. So it was interesting to see how it was going to pan out, and whether we could take advantage and who would win the battle. But you know, it's Derby Day, and a lot of things go out the window. And God, it was a game, and I know you've watched it a couple of times now, and
I've studied this one, mate.
I've studied it, so I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing exactly the way you see it, and I'm pretty sure we'll have a few discussions along the way.
Okay, right. So here we go. Right. So sit down, son. This one could take a while. So the way I looked at it, right. So obviously we get the podcast in the week, and we're all pretty confident, right? And we're probably confident. I always think that every game has its sort of reference point. Right, so this game had 2 reference points in my opinion. Right, so we had the Mesut Ozil goal. We're all on a high. We've seen us come back from 2-0 down at Ludogorets, and we're thinking this is a new team, new character, wonderful. Next night we sit down in front of our TV, we watch Spurs, these 85,000 fans, get crushed at Wembley, right? And we watch what Leverkusen done to Spurs, right? So Leverkusen were very smart. They were very energetic. They pressed Spurs into their half. They made it a small pitch game, I call it. and they really tested the technical base of Tottenham, and they were found wanting. Right, so I'm thinking, wow, great. We done the podcast. We were looking at the space behind the fullbacks, and we're thinking we're going to do this. And for the first time in 2.5 years, we're feeling pretty confident. Most Arsenal fans think we're going to win this game. Right, so, and that's sometimes I want to say that because I think every game has a benchmark. Every game has a point by which we have our opinions. And that's where our opinions were set. We feel like we haven't beaten them for a while. We thought in the league, this is it. This is our time. They're not in good form. They've got a few players out. Most of our players are fit. We've got a lot of players coming back fresh. This should be our moment, right? And then the teams come out, and I didn't see the teams come out originally. So when I started watching the game, I just was watching the game, and it took me a while to work out the 3-5-2. And it looks like I wasn't alone, right? It looks like the team took them a while to work out 3-5-2. So I thought this was a smart move by Pochettino. So what did the 3-5-2 do? Right, so immediately it makes the fullbacks be in areas where they are happier being in. So they moved 15 yards up the pitch. When we watched them against Leverkusen, they were like scared rabbits in their own box, looking very unstable. So immediately he's empowered them by moving them further forward. Dyer was useless in the week. Vertonghen held them together. By adding Wimmer next to Dyer, it made him feel more comfortable, took the stress away from him. And Vertonghen was still the same solid player. So and Wimmer was another big body in the centre of the team. Right. So I'm thinking, okay, that's a smart move. So now you've fixed Carl Walkies, you've fixed the fullbacks. They're now not so important defensively. You've made Dyer feel much more comfortable. Smart move. Right. So then he picks. I was disappointed to see Dembele fit. I thought he wouldn't be fit, and I thought they'd be in trouble. Right. So. Because I think he's one of their best players. Right, so Dembele comes in next to the big wardrobe Wanyama. Power, strength, right? So I'm thinking, okay, that's a bit more of an issue for us, right? And I know there's lots of hype over Dele Alli, but if you ask me, Eriksen's a much better player. And he's been pushed to the side and his effectiveness has been reduced. Bringing him number 10, that really concerned me. And then Son, I didn't notice before the game, but it was a really smart move by him. Harry Kane's coming back, so mentally he gives them a boost. And Son, who I actually thought was a key player on their team, Son just runs, and he's doing Kane's running for him. And that is another smart move. So what Pochettino did by going 3-5-2 is he absolutely got the maximum out of his group of players, the players he had available to pick. He's done it before. He done it last year. But he done it for a few games and he went away from it. But this was the game to do it, and it really sort of worked out for them. And the first 20 minutes, I wouldn't say we couldn't get near them, but we just sort of stood off them a little bit, looking at what they were going to do, which is what we didn't expect with what I call Alexis Arsenal. We all thought we were going to press them, right? So, but they were quite hard to press. They had out balls. They were quite hard to press. But the moment the game changed for me was the moment that ball went down our right, and Son done the dummy and he ran Mustafi. And what that did was change the dynamics of the game. It was about minute 7. And Son ran him. Let's be honest, right? He ran him, ran around him, went into the box, unopposed. Mustafi made a late slide tackle just to get in the picture to make sure, let's all think he was close. He wasn't close, right? Son ripped him, right? So, and when you're a defender, right, and you get run like that, the first thing that happens is, okay, I'm going to step back. And that was where we went wrong. That was why we couldn't press. The pitch was way too big for us, right? So, and if it's a big running pitch, and I go back to Leverkusen, they made it a small pitch. If it's a big running pitch with big spaces and you're not pressing Spurs' technicality, it becomes a physical running match. And that's where Spurs are better than us. They have got massive athletes, massive runners, muscle-bound footballers like Wanyama and Dembele, and I mean the bodies of some of them boys, they're huge, right? Even people like Son, they're 6 foot. Harry Kane's 6 foot plus. They are a big unit, and the smaller players like Rose, he's a very powerful lad. So what you've done, you've given them green grass. You've given power athletes green grass, and we need to make it a small grass game. So I actually think Son stretched us out and made the pitch big, and they dropped off at the back to give them time on the ball. And it took us a while to compress the game and press the game. And once we started doing that, I felt we got close. We got into the game. The last 20 minutes of the first half, we annihilated them. But every game sort of has its flow, right? And Spurs were allowed to be big bodies. They were allowed to foul us, right? I'm sure you've got the stats right, but they made 19 tackles, but they made 17 fouls, right? And that, everyone knows our sort of Achilles heel is when we got a couple, right? Pace of pass, fluency. If you can disrupt us, slow our pass down and slow the rhythm of the game, we're not as effective. And I think Clattenburg definitely allowed them to big body us. And he had this sort of, I don't know what you felt in the ground was, but I thought he had this, it's a derby, I want to let it flow mentality. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to send anybody off. And that played into their hands because if it's a shoulder-to-shoulder situation, we may not be as small as we used to be, but the stat is that Arsenal are the lightest team in the league, on pure body weight. And I think it showed. I don't know how it felt when you were watching it. I think it really showed that they were intimidating as a unit. And I do think that made us nervous. I think it made us anxious. I go back to our benchmark. As fans, we thought it was going to be easier. I wonder if you think players thought it would be easier. And suddenly, we're in a battle. And suddenly, this is where you need big players to be calm and composed. And I felt we were nervous and anxious with our technique. And it showed as we tried to move the ball around.
Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head with all of that there, Clive. And when I looked at the lineup, when I was saying about the physicality and that, and it was very interesting. And I mean, how do we plug that gap? We know we're the best five-side team out there at the half spaces, getting the ball in between the lines. And like you said, was it 100% just because the Mustafi was pushed a bit deeper and we couldn't get the team up the pitch? And do you think that our midfield pairing of Xhaka and Coquelin could have had something to do with us not moving the ball through them lines or picking up them little spaces between? And with regards to physicality, I mean, that Kevin Wimmer tackle was disgusting. Like, and it took something like that before the ref actually did something, because it was constant and it always was going to be the way with Spurs. Looking, like you said, they're big guys throughout the team, physicality, and we really weren't at the races. But as you said, once we got a bit more of a grip on the game in the second half of the first half, we were fantastic then. But it's very rare you see a team come to the Emirates. I mean, we only had 46% possession. We weren't on the game. I mean, we only had 70% pass completion rate, which is very low, very low. And
I think we average in the mid-80s normally, or early 80s.
And that is very, very low. We completed just 298 passes at home, which for Arsenal is extremely low. And it's very
Spurs
rare.
They had the top 6 passing combinations, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, of the individual players. And it's something you're not used to seeing with an Arsenal side. And there is different ways of playing the game, but I just thought that, like you said, Pochettino did get it spot on. And for the first 25 minutes, we were like, whoa, hang on a minute. They ain't mucking about here. They're big boys. They're well organised. They know exactly what they want to do. If Rose and Walker get the chance to go forward, they're covered. And until we could really figure that out, later in the second half, we did start to create a few more chances, and we had a few very, very unlucky efforts. But I'm just wondering if you thought that midfield 2/3 of Spurs, when they were pushing forward, do you think that, looking at Coquelin and Xhaka, do you think that's sort of saying there? Do you think someone like Santi would have made a difference, or would you have gone a bit more aggressive and tried to have someone like Ramsey, or I know Jack Wilshere ain't at the club, but that type of player who's gonna try and progress through that midfield rather than playing in front of them, because they're big lads and that's exactly where they want you. They don't want to be turned around. They don't want to be doing running. And I don't think that Coquelin runs a lot, but I don't think progressively as a runner he's intelligent enough, and it's not his game to get sort of past them players and receive the ball and then move it on again quickly. And Xhaka isn't, as we know, he's probably more like them as a midfield player. He's more physical, and I think we tried to match them physically then, when really I think it would have been better off trying to ignore them and miss the bodies and play the football down the side. But I'm not sure whether you think them two were an issue or we just weren't at the races.
You know what? Well, when I looked at it, I thought we lacked a brain on the pitch. right? So I think physically, if you look at the game and you think, okay, if Santi was on the pitch, what would have happened? I genuinely, I'm not sure, right? So it looked like when you see big bodies, you have to react to it, right? So to be fair, Spurs weren't penetrating. You know, Lloris had more passes than Alexis, right? They were playing in their back three around that area. But what I just think the fact they had control of the ball, it forced us out of our comfort zone as a team, right? So, but you know what? This is top level football. If you think as a fan, no matter what you feel beforehand, that we're better than them and we're going to show them, they played Leverkusen, they were rubbish, Leverkusen are 13th in the Bundesliga, it's our day. No matter what you think, Spurs are a top team. Arsenal are a top team. Spurs are undefeated, right? They've had 6 draws, okay, but they're undefeated. And they're going to have a level of control for some time. And I think as fans and a club, we have to get comfortable that we won't dominate every single minute of every game. And people are really upset about the fact that Spurs has some control. I never saw it coming, but so what? You know, and to be fair to the team, when we were going through the bad moments, they didn't overcommit. They didn't open themselves up. They didn't concede the first goal. And you think back to our sort of previous years, we'd be 1-0 down in that game. We were 1-0 down the game last year. Do you know what I mean? But we've actually taken the first step. And for the last 20 minutes of the first half, we absolutely marmalised them, right? And the frustration is that our decision-making and pass selection and shot selection in that 20-minute golden period, the Iwobi shot, the Theo cutback. I mean, the Iwobi shot really disappointed me, and the frustration must have leapt from the stands, right? And he's hit the target. But there was no conviction in his body shape. If you watch it, where he put his standing foot, he was never scoring. That was one for the crowd. That's one for the crowd. You know, get a bit of an ooh. You know, it's really quite worrying actually. And if I learned something from this game, is that this game is a big game now. And I mean in capitals, right? It's a big game. And Arsenal have got to maybe pick big players for big games, right? And players that are used to that level of stress, that level of expectation. And I'm not destroying any particular individual, but I think we've got to make sure our bigger players are on the pitch, even above having the right balance and profile. If you see what I mean? I think it's important that in situations we can cope. And we did cope, to be fair. It wasn't as comfortable as I'd like it. And Kane, when he nodded it past the post, I was thinking, crikey, you know, I don't even rate him. How do you get that space? You know, maybe I've got to change my opinion. But on Coquelin, funny enough, you know, I'm a fan I was actually, it's two sides to his game. I bet you in the stadium, everyone loved him because he had a couple of massive tackles and he was like doing a lot of work. You know, as a team, we outran them and outsprinted them. So you can't say we didn't put the effort in, right? So, but I actually thought he didn't give us enough control. He didn't give us enough brain. I thought Xhaka had a really good game. But I was actually disappointed with Coquelin, and it didn't surprise me when he was first off. And I'm one of his biggest fans. I just felt he didn't quite get to the pitch of the ball. He didn't quite ruffle Dembele and Wanyama. He tried, but I think he found it very difficult, and we needed something different. I actually think a Ramsey or El Nene, in hindsight, would have been better. And the reason why, well, particularly El Nene actually was, and I think because he doesn't keep the ball. When he gets it, he moves it, and he dictates the game by how many miles he covers. And Ramsey does to a point as well. They move, they create problems, they create different angles. And Coquelin's was real benefit is at home when teams are trying to break on us and try to play us, is to dispossess them so we can transition and score. And I felt that role on the day wasn't really required. We needed someone with a personality to say, I'm here, I'm in control, I'm moving the ball at pace really quickly, and when we get it, you lot have got problems. And I felt he didn't quite cause enough problems for them when we had the ball, and it did not surprise me when he came off first, because technically we needed to technically drive them back. and he couldn't do it. Now, I'm a big fan, you know that, but this is what we talk about, isn't it? Horses for courses, right? And it did not surprise me that Ramsey came on. It could have been Ramsey or El Neni. At that time in the game, 1-1, Wenger's probably thinking, I'm more likely to get a goal from Ramsey, so I'm going to bring him on, right? But I think we missed something there. How did it feel in the ground, mate, when you saw it?
Yeah, as the game was going on, like you said, the first 30 minutes was increasingly frustrating. And Coquelin did put in a few big tackles, and like you said on Derby Day, everyone loves that. But I was a bit more alarmed. Before the game, I was a bit worried about the midfield domination from Spurs. And then during the game, it was developing exactly how I'd envisaged. And it weren't a nice thing to see, really, because you've hit the nail on the head with Coquelin. He did work hard, he done a lot, but he weren't intelligent enough. I don't think that's his game. I think he's better off, like you said, I think he's better off in front of the back four. And he's been pressing hard brilliantly this season, but he's had the intelligence of Santi with him. Now, Xhaka isn't unintelligent, but I think both of them players are defensive midfielders in my mind. They're different types of defensive midfielders. I think Coquelin's all action. He's going to cover loads of ground. And Xhaka's more seek the danger, see it before it happens, deal with it, and move the ball on. But I definitely
in hindsight, mate, you know, for that game. Sorry, in hindsight, purely hindsight. You know, when the team was out, I was fine with it. Right? If you decide to go Xhaka and Coquelin, that's fine by me. That means he's seen something. He knows what he wants to do. I'm all right with it. So it's pure hindsight. In hindsight, if I had my time again, I would, and given the fitness where Ramsey is, I would have gone Xhaka, El Neni, purely to get control. They are both control merchants. I don't think Xhaka is a DM in a one. I think he plays like a left half. He plays left side of our midfield too. And his partner normally plays on the right side. And it was quite, I don't know how it felt, but for me, I watched the game and I thought we'd done very well down our left side. And that's where Xhaka was primarily. And strangely enough, our right side had no connection, no real danger, no real penetration. And very so isolated. we got in behind Walker. We stretched Dyer out. But we didn't really go down Vertonghen's side enough. Rose was better positioned. Theo's done okay, but he's played a bit tighter. Bellerin's had a decent game because he's just a very decent player. But we really didn't connect on the right side in the same way as on the left.
Do you not think that was part of the ploy, though, from Spurs, though, Clive? Because knowing with the way Iwobi plays the game and that he's really not gonna stick wide and try and get into that area as much. Do you think Spurs were more comfortable knowing that would be the case, and maybe the left side looked a lot stronger because that was where Spurs were sort of snuffing out the right, and there was no outlet, and Theo he found it very hard to get any space, and like you said, without the control of midfield, it was very hard to get hold of the ball.
We need a different controller. So what we need, when you have El Neni and Xhaka, what they're very good at is one-touch football, right? So and that's very easy statement to say, but you've got to be very clever to do that, right? So, and one-touch football makes you think, it makes you step away, right? So, and I think they've got the vision to balance the game. And I thought where we were a little bit off, we had sort of Xhaka, his average position map was sort of middle left, and we had Coquelin, his average position map was slightly in front of him, only slightly to the right. So what this did to keep us compact is it forced Theo to play inward a bit more, and which meant he wasn't separated. If you can't see his boots, you're not going to pass to him, right? So he only got a couple of passes, nearly scored off one, right? And so he's had a flat game, and it's not down to him, right? So it's down to how we used that side. We didn't use that side very well, but we got a lot from the left side. And this is when people say, oh, we missed Santi. I think we missed a brain, but for this day, the combination of Xhaka and El Neni might have worked better. And then bring on Ramsey, game dependent, just where he is for his fitness, etc. later on. Iwobi was the trick, really. And although he took a lot of stick for how he looked, his body language, and to me, I've spoken for a while now, I think he needed to be taken out. Before this happened, before people have given him some stick, because he doesn't deserve it. He is a shining light. He is academy kid, been there since he's 8-9 years of age, and he's made the first team. the percentile chance of that happening in this day and age is so small. We should be cosseting him and really making sure that we don't blow his career like potentially we've blown Jack's career, right? So I wanted him out of the team beforehand, not because he's not good enough, not because I don't like him. It's because you've got to protect careers. We mess up Callum Chambers' career by playing in the wrong position for too long in a game, and we exposed him. He's only now just recovering. I don't want to happen to Iwobi because he's too talented, right? So, and I go back to big players. I do think we could have used an Aaron Ramsey from that position, who I think is smarter to recognise the opportunity that was in front of him. That was our in on that side there, and we didn't quite do it, right? We didn't quite deliver from that left to right ball. We didn't do it, and we just need a big player to recognise those situations. Hey, look, it might not have worked out, but I think we missed a trick. The space was down the sides. Our game plan should have been, let's move the ball down the sides. So Theo, for example, this is another one. Theo we all know his speciality, right? Out to win runs. That's his trick. Can't be tracked. Once he's on the race with you, you're dead, right? But actually, he needs to be a bit smarter. He needs to do what I call in to out runs. So he's actually facing the touchline. He's starting inside. He's not being marked. He stands in a half space, but then he makes that curve run to the touchline, in behind Rose. So what he's doing is saying, Danny Rose, yeah, are you going to leave me? Are you going to leave me with Vertonghen? I'm going to curve into that space behind you all day. So we're going to play cat and mouse. Then you can decide if you want to leave me, fine. But every time that ball's coming to me, I'm going to roast Vertonghen in one-on-one. But what Theo did was stay on the same track, waiting for what I call Chelsea Arsenal to appear, and then he'll get his in. He got in once. He nearly scored. How do you feel about that one, mate, on the Theo side?
Yeah, I think you described it perfectly. And that chance you talk about when he got in, that was probably the only occasion he did make a sort of an in to out run, and he was in the half space and he could see the space. There was so much. Rhodes was gone, and Walcott knew if he had opened his body, the pass from Xhaka was fantastic, and he can't do much more, can he? I mean, the touch and hit was sensational. Wow. I mean, he's hit the ball like an absolute rocket, and really up until the 30th minute when we were just discussing about Iwobi, I thought that really was a big moment for him. Not defining a player's career on one chance against Spurs, but this was the last few weeks he hasn't been the same player. He's looked a bit tired, and when that chance falls to you in a North London derby, you really want to see him take it. And before then, we didn't create a lot, and it actually come on a counter-attack. And it was a phenomenal, sensational move. It was like one of them, the stadium could sense that a goal was going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Theo Walcott played a fantastic ball out from deep. On the edge of his own box, he picked out Alexis. Brilliant pass, a little flick from Alexis into his mate Ozil. Then them two are gone. They've isolated the rest of the pitch. And then once them two are gone and they're on the back three, we just manipulated the ball. Alexis come inside. Ozil picked him out. Alexis knew where the space was. Iwobi, I mean, that's how lazy Kyle Walker is, that Iwobi is steaming away from him. And the space was there and the chance was there, and it just didn't happen. And then again, we started creating more. We got in behind again. A minute later, you had Alexis pulled out to that left wing, took the centre back out of the way, crossed into the edge of the box, like we said, Ozil running onto it, just scuffed his shot wide. I mean, he had a lot of space and a lot of time, and he could have probably took a touch, but if he'd have pinged it in, we'd have said brilliant goal. Then we started getting ahead of ourselves. We started getting on the ball, getting on the game, and then the Walcott fizz against the post, and you thought, right, we need to get the goal here, and we did. And after we got the goal, we were 1-0 up, and then I suppose from then on you think, right, we're 1-0 up and come out second half. We haven't been great first half, but let's look shiny, let's look bright, and let's go with it early doors. But it didn't really happen, and I don't know how you think.
Yeah.
I mean, we come in a bit asleep, and I think the penalty sort of summed up exactly the situation it was in. We allowed Dembele to travel, and what do you think about the defensive aspect after going to goal up and coming out in a North London derby in the second half? I mean, did you expect us to be a bit more on the ball?
Yeah, so half times we've scored, we've got momentum, right? So you'd think that we'd just push on, right? So you know what? The first few minutes of that game was just settling into a benign affair where we were just starting to control, right? So nothing's happening, and so Dembele picks up the ball. He turns away from Ozil, cuts across him. So Ozil needs to foul him. He's not going to do that. He's a gentle soul. So he lets him run into Coquelin. And this is the moment of the game, right? So Coquelin now has got to decide what he's going to do. Because Dembele is on a roll. He's rolling. And you need to stop him early. You need to get under him. Don't care what you do, get under him. So what Coquelin has done, he's gone in, body, shoulder to shoulder. And Dembele has just boshed him off. Get off me. He's pulled his shirt, boshed him off. And there's a fraction of a second where we hesitated. And there's a penalty line there. And we needed to step out beyond that, right? And just take him outside, right? So, but we didn't. We allowed him to come into the box. And the way he's curved his run to the left, he's actually curved his run and he's going nowhere. Literally nowhere. And it really annoys me, this penalty, because it didn't need to happen. We allowed it to happen. We had a couple of opportunities to stop it happening. But as he's curved his run, he thought, I'm running out of space here. I'm running out of energy. I've done all my tricks. I've got nothing left. I'm in the box. If I push it to the left, I'm going to throw myself into these defenders and see what happens. And that's how we got it. And from a football perspective, what you look for, you can look at, from a referee perspective, you look at two things. You can look at the move and think, what's he trying here? Is he going anywhere? No, he's not. And benefit of doubt goes to the defenders, right? But what Clattenburg did is that he actually managed the moment. And when you look at the moment, you can see contact with Dembele's left foot from Koscielny's right foot. And so you can't argue that there's not contact, right? But as Wenger says, right, contact does not mean a foul, right? Football is a contact sport. I get annoyed when people say, the analysts on TV, and they say, look, there was contact. Mate, as a defender, you are taught and coached to contact your man. Put your arm on his back, feel him, move him away by what you do to his body. Contact is part of the game. Contact does not mean a foul. And I think from a football perspective, you could argue it wasn't a penalty. From a technical perspective, you couldn't say that there wasn't a level of contact that could be deemed to bring him over. And the fact we left it a 50-50 decision was down to us. We should have stopped the danger much, much sooner. And it didn't, and I'll tell you again, it didn't surprise me Coquelin went off. It's not because I don't love him, not because he didn't do the best 2 tackles in the game, not because, he almost epitomises the fan on the day. I absolutely love watching him play. But he didn't do his job there. He needed to snuff him out. He didn't do his job, and whether we love him or not, you got to highlight it, right? So, and there's another player I want to highlight, right, that I've got concerns about, and I've had concerns before he came actually, but he's been a massive surprise to me, and that's been Mustafi, right? So, I think he's been shaky the last couple of games. I think he's been shaky, and he's just been getting away with it, and I think he got a bit exposed on the day. I really did. I think he was not as sure. The good thing about him is he's a serious football player and he battles through bad moments. But he is being pushed around. He is not as connected to Koscielny, and we're having to work very hard in games. Now, is that because of our midfield balance? I'm not too sure. But he's a one-on-one defender that's having a bit of a struggle in one-on-one moments. And if you remember in the second half, well, in the first half, he got run, so we dropped away. In the second half, that challenge with Son that led to a Eriksen's shot that went through the legs of one of our players, and Czech's made a world-class save. Yeah. Because that is a goal. Once it goes through the player's legs, mate, it's over. That is a goal. He has saved our day. So there are people frustrated about not winning. That goes in, we lose. Simple as that. We lose that game, right? So. And I'll just notice a few things. I don't know, are you with me on that one, or do you think it's just a moment in time and he'll just go through it?
No, I definitely agree. In recent weeks, we've seen Mustafi struggle in certain situations, and I don't think it does it. I think what we have seen in the last month or so is when you talk about that midfield 2, we haven't seen a 2 play consistently. We've been chopping and changing in front of him, and whether that affects him or not, you'd like to think with 2 defensive-ish minded players in front of him that he'd be given a lot more protection than he did. But when you talk about protection, we've had moments like the misjudgment at Sunderland, and these little things do happen in his game, and he doesn't worry me at all. I just think maybe he is going through, and you hit the nail on the head when you said Mustafi is a man that during adversity, he will battle through that. And we've had defenders throughout the years who have lost the plot, even back to people like Gallas and that. When things ain't going right, they're not even worth being on the pitch. But Mustafi seems to try and tune himself in and thinks, well, hang on a minute. And I said on a pod a while back after a few games of seeing him, he seems to take a little while to size up his opponent, and then once he gets a hold of him. But I think recent weeks he's been struggling a bit more to sort of get to understand what is going on, and especially the way Son played. Like you said, he's run is almost what Alexis does with us, where he drops off in that hole, and the centre backs don't really know, they're not marking him as such, and then it becomes a foot race with Alexis, and then you struggle. And Mustafi was a bit isolated. I wouldn't say he was terrible, but again, I have certainly noticed a drop in his levels the last few weeks, but I'm hoping it's just a blip. And that partnership with Coquelin looked at the start like it was going to blossom into something fantastic. I'm not saying it won't still now. I just think we want to get our back sort of five, and it also as well, we've had Ospina coming in, Gibbs coming in. We ain't been very settled, and I always like to see a settled five and the two in front, if we can, throughout the spine of the team. And I think the team will grow, but there's a rotation, and then there's a lot of chopping and changing, and it might affect him as a player. You don't know, but he's always going to be one to shake it off, and I think he'll come through this little spell, and hopefully sooner rather than later, and we can get back to looking very, very strong at the back. Because, I mean, we've given away, I know it's Coquelin to give away the pen, but this season we've given away a few sloppy penalties just by moments of falling asleep. Yeah, the ball in behind against Hull, they got caught square, the centre-backs, and Czech took him out. The mistake by Mustafi at Sunderland, and then, again, a bit of indecision. There was three of them lined up, and they've dangled legs, and you can't dangle a leg in a penalty area, and whether you could argue whether it's a pen or not. But I just think as a defender, you shouldn't be. You've got to be more decisive in what you're doing, and I'm hoping that it's just a little blip, and we get some. I think the players need a bit of solidness again, and to know, look, this is the five, this is the back five. Here we go. This is the two in front. You create a partnership with me, because Mustafi, a lot of the times on the ball, he's fantastic, and he's looking for that forward pass, and it was almost if the two in front of him were flat, and he has to bypass them and try and play 40-yard passes all the time. And he's a centre back. It's not. So really, we need a connector, and like you said, someone like El Nene, or I do think Ramsey can do that. We'll see long term. I do. But
I'm coming round to that view, as I am.
Yeah.
I think if we're looking at the game now, and we're looking at what I call big games, so Arsenal's season is going to be defined on big games, right? So, and I think if Xhaka's our future, and I think he is, if we spent the money on him, and he's 23 years of age, he's got a 5-year contract, and he's our future, and he plays left side of a centre midfield, right? So we need a player to play on the right side of a centre midfield, and I think that I'm warming. It's not every game, but a game for my life. I'm warming to that right-sided player being El Neni or Ramsey, because I believe the way I see football is I like a block, I like a four, and we move around that four, and I want my four, the two centre backs and the two in midfield. I want them to stay as a block and facilitate the game to our talented four up front. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. And our full-back support that. We have got we've got three very good players up front. The fourth is a work in progress, right? So, and we need to develop that fourth member. And I think if we're looking for a signing for Arsenal, I think it's that fourth member. So we have a really star-studded front four to go and win us football matches, right? So if our superstar two at the moment, and Theo's trying to get himself into upper echelon, he's got the wages, but the performance is on its way, but it's not there yet. We need another one to really push us on, and that's how I see football. So I think, with my sort of narrow-minded head on, I like the player to be a right-footed player to play on the right side of the two, and we get some stability there. And on your point about a defence, I sort of and having some stability of selection. It's quite interesting because a few weeks ago, Monreal was flagging. We were debating whether Gibbs was in. Monreal comes in, and we could argue that he was our man of the match along with Mustafi. Again, our left side worked very, very well. Sorry, along with Xhaka. Our left side worked very, very well. And I thought Monreal was absolutely faultless. He was faultless in everything he did. And maybe this is why I'm hopeful with Iwobi. Just take them out for a couple of weeks. Just give him the time to recover so he gets that freshness of movement back again. Because Iwobi, I don't know if you were watching him running, he wasn't running well. He was running really laboured. And I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, this isn't right. This is a big game. He didn't have a bad game. Actually, he played a lot of key passes, but that's because our left side was working. But I just felt we've got to be careful with him. We really have. I saw some stuff online. Not that I should worry about it too much, but there was some people really giving him some stick. I mean, you were giving him some stick, right? So I know it's just emotions of the day, but it's like we've got to look after this kid. I really think we do. Right? And it looks as though, from my angle, that left side worked. Centre mid was okay. I felt we need to drive them back. But let's give respect to Spurs, right? They challenged us. They challenged our thought process. And within those periods of time, we didn't crumble. We looked at it. We assessed it. We got ourselves ahead. My regret was they bundled a penalty from us. And I'm not sure they were going to score. We held it now 5 or so minutes. We'd have regained control. And I think we'd have run away with that game. But we couldn't quite do it. And the goal really knocked us. And then that challenged us again. And so what do you think about obviously Wenger was really quite proactive, right? I don't think we can criticise him. I don't think we can criticise the effort of the players. We actually ran more than Spurs on the day. So people can't say we didn't work hard. What do you think of the impact of the substitutes?
Do you know, it's frustrating. When I look at Wenger, I actually thought that at the start of the game, when I saw the lines, I thought he showed them a little bit too much respect. And allowing them to dominate the game in the way they did, I don't know why. That team's not 1 in 6 or whatever it was. I was expecting us to come out, all guns blazing, first to every ball. But Pochettino, like you said, we've got to give him his due. They stifled us immediately. And we took half an hour to get into our stride. And by then, there's only 15 minutes left. We've got the goal. Brilliant. And then we come out again, second half, exactly the same way. This time, we conceded the goal. And we didn't look like... And then Wenger made the right subs. I think he definitely made the right subs. I think there's question marks over whether all 3 of them players could have started. Do you know what I mean? You could have easily started Giroud and put Alexis on the left.
And that shows you how strong our bench is, doesn't it?
Mate, it does.
Battle of the benches, we murdered them, right? We
Exactly.
murdered them. And I was really hopeful.
The biggest frustration for me was Ox. I mean, the kid, what a chance. He's coming on. Honestly, Clive, I've never seen a player play a 10-yard pass 40 yards over someone's head. Like, it was so frustrating because you thought coming on against tired minds, tired bodies, Walcott hasn't had much of a chance out there. There could be an opportunity to with Giroud coming on to occupy the centre-backs a bit more and a bit of space in behind Rosen. It just didn't happen for Ox, did it? It sort of seemed like everything he touched just went horrifically wrong for the lad. And
well, could I just come in on the Ox, right? And
go on, jump on.
Then you go on to the next ones, right? So, funny enough, I was actually coaching the game on the day, and we had a great win. We were 3-0 down, and we won 4-3, right? So I watched the game, afterwards, and I came home and I thought, let me watch us again. All I could see online was Ox had the worst performance since Ibui. I'm thinking, crikey, I need to watch this. What's he done? Do you know what I mean? So I watched it again, right? So he comes on. He immediately gets involved in a battle down the right-hand side. He wins it, and Bellerin has the shot. I'm thinking, okay, that's pretty good. He had another couple of tackles, no issues. He gets the ball inside right channel, and he plays the ball out to the right wing, and it's like goes out to touch. And I could hear the crowd. I'm thinking, that don't sound good. And then he gives away a couple of cheap fouls with Danny Rose in their half. I'm thinking, okay. Then he gets the ball out wide, and he tries to drive volley the ball across. He tries to hit the latest on it and sort of undercut it into the box, right? And he chose the wrong technique. What he should have done was instep, get it a bit out of his feet, instep curl. So he's tried to drive it lazily, and he's driven it way over again, right? So I'm thinking, okay, this is not good. And then he gives away the foul that Eriksen has hit the post with. And that was the thing that annoyed me the most, actually. Not the 2 passes he misplaced, but that cheap foul on Danny Rose when he should have just gone past him. And then Eriksen takes that free kick, and that could have easily have lost the game. right? Easy had lost the game. So I looked at it, and so he's had a couple of tackles. He's played 2 misplaced passes. That's all. And that tells me, actually, it wasn't great, but he then, because of the vitriol he got, I don't know how you felt, but I thought he hid inside. I thought he hid in a part of the pitch where he couldn't get the ball, Theo style last season. Right? So it obviously affected him. So yes, he played 2 bad passes, but I can tell you 5 or 6 that Alexis played wrong. You know, and I think it's really important as a group of fans. And by the way, he didn't play great, but it wasn't that bad. But you know, we've got Old Trafford coming up. Alexis is going to do his round the world trip. Iwobi's not on the best of form, and Ox had hit a little bit of a dip when he previously was doing okay. We're going to need them all for that day. If we think we can get through Old Trafford post international break without Oxlade-Chamberlain and Iwobi having a part, we're deluding ourselves, right? So as a set of fans, we've got to recognise we need them all. You know, all these players to turn up. If we keep killing them, we're going to have them hiding off the ball, and that's not going to benefit us, right? So, what was it like in the ground? I mean, am I completely off base here? I mean, I'm just trying to look at it a little bit more, introspectively.
The feeling in the stadium, Clive. I think the reason there was so much frustration is, number one, the game. Let's be honest. It's a North London derby. It's 1-1. He's come on with 20 minutes to go. This is
the time in the game.
The time in the game. The importance of the game.
And we want the win. We want the win, don't we?
Exactly.
We want the win.
Right. So people noticed very early what you said about hiding inside. He started that very early. From what we could see in the ground. Now we're expecting him to come on, isolate the fullback, use his strength, use his power, use his pace, get past Rose, and try and create something. And like you said, that overhit cross, you can't blame him too much for that, but he's got the technique wrong, like you said. But it's just the frustrations of him not coming on and taking the game by a scruff of the neck. I mean, he's run into a North London derby, and I think that the game situation and everyone's like talks about confidence. He's talking about he's got the most goals he's got. He's looking good. He's contributing, and you just, when it comes on in a game like that, you need to see something. You really do need to see something. And I think a lot of it was a situation, and like we said, the time of the game and being Spurs. But I just think if Ox had delivered, like we talk about Alexis giving the ball away, but Alexis has delivered season in, season out for us. He's one of the best players in the world. Yep. But Ox is yet to prove that, and I think that's why people are not quick to jump on his back, because I think people in the stadium, the feeling was of huge frustration, because it was more of a case of, mate, we know you've got the ability. Everyone knows he's got the ability, but again, we're seeing the same thing, and we can't keep going, he's low on confidence, he's low on it. Hang on a minute, this is Arsenal Spurs. We're not a creche anymore. We're a top club. And another thing I'd like to say is, are we starting to now, with the Iwobi situation on the left, and is it Iwobi, or are we regretting letting Joel Campbell go again? And Gnabry? I know Gnabry, we didn't have much of a choice, but I think maybe we left ourselves a little light in that area, because Iwobi is being forced to play too many games, in my opinion. I like him as a lad, and I like his footballing ability, but he at his age, I mean, he looked like he had been out injured for 9 months, and he had just come back for his first game, the way he was trotting about. I mean, I don't know whether he's physically tired or mentally tired, or he needs to be taken out. It's been coming a while with Iwobi.
It's been coming a while.
And I don't want to pick on him. I don't want to pick on him. I'm not picking on him or Ox, but I just think as a club now, we're looking at Arsenal wanting to be winning the title. We're playing our North London rivals at home. Them key moments, Iwobi's shot is a massive moment, and Ox coming on 20 minutes and the impact on the game he had, it was so frustrating to see. And especially, I think what frustrates people even more with the Ox situation is that we brought on a 6'4" centre forward and we couldn't cross the ball to his head. I mean, come on. Like, bring Ox on and bring Giroud. You don't bring Giroud on to then play Ox inside. It's completely backwards. You'd almost be better off bringing Walker on to cross to Giroud, because stretch the game, but it was strange.
I hear what you mean, but you know what, mate? Sometimes as a coach, right, so you react, right? So if you think about the part of that game where we got done, it's when Dembele penetrated through our middle. So as a coach, you're thinking, well, you know what? I can't have that happen again. He's just run through us, right? And so for all we know, he might have said to Ox and Theo, stay narrow. Our middle's too open. I don't want them running through us. Let's give Coquelin some support. Let's start to push them back. Stay narrow. Let's solidify the middle. Ozil, you go higher, play like a 9, right? And we literally almost played 2 up front, didn't we? Really? And Theo had his least effective game as a forward, but he was quite tucked in. And the Ox came on and did the same. So that tells me, and sometimes my son played football, right, and he's an overlapping fullback. And some games I watch him, especially when he's playing at the academy level, I'm thinking, why isn't he getting forward? And I'm fuming, right? No crosses. I'm fuming. And then he says to me, Dad, he goes, the coach told us, I want you to play narrow, stay connected to your centre half. I don't want you going forward, stay in your hole. They've got a very quick forward line. I want you to stay connected. So I've had a vision of the game in my head, that my ideal game for my son, but actually the coach has told him to do something completely different. And sometimes as fans, we've got to think, actually, Oxlade-Chamberlain, we want you to get wide, and get crosses in. But actually the coach might have said, stay tucked in. Don't let them break on us. I cannot afford to lose this game. Do you see what I mean? Theo's not fit, hasn't played for a few weeks. I want to make sure we don't lose this game. If you can stay connected to Bellerin, let him come outside you. So we're not always sure what we're looking at. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I think that's part of the frustration, though, Clive. Sorry to jump in. I think as a fan in North London derby against a team that ain't 1 in 6 that are down in dumps, that Wenger's never beat Pochettino, to make the subs when he did that looked like they were trying to win the game, but really he's still tucked him in, and it's not really a stick or twist. It's a bit of, do you know what I mean? He ain't
half and half.
So he's sort of half gone. And then Ox is the one who ends up getting dog's abuse for it. And Olivier Giroud's come on and not made an impact because we haven't tried to change the way we're playing at all. And Alexis has gone out on the left, but he spent the whole game up front, and he looks a bit disorientated. And I don't know. I thought they were the right subs, but I was expecting maybe us to go a bit more aggressive. But like you said, maybe he didn't want to lose the game. But I thought, especially last 20, we didn't perform that well throughout the game, barring 15-minute spell in the first half. I just thought, come on, 1-1, let's go and win this game, Arsenal. Let's go and put it to bed. We know we've got it in us, but it just didn't really materialise. And whether that was a tactical on Wenger's part, saying tuck in, which is a very good point, it could well be, because we see Ox do that a lot. And I think Ox naturally wants to be inside as a footballer, and I think Wenger uses that, and he's used it with Ramsey. But I just think at that stage in the game, when you bring Olivier Giroud on, I think, I'd have just gone for bust. But that's me. And I might well have lost the game and people would have hated me for it. But
exactly.
Do you know what I mean? You can't tell how it's going to go. He's got to make that decision.
And I'm not saying it. I'm just saying that sometimes we're not sure what instructions he was given. Right? And to be fair, what we were doing really, really nicely, we were getting into areas for what I call inverted crosses. So left footer from the right side and Alexis from the left side. And those crosses caused them the most problems. When we got our fullbacks wide, and we crossed the ball in from what I call lateral areas, I thought Spurs defended it very, very well. They've got some giants in there. And Giroud and others were really close getting on the end of things. They didn't quite do it. Giroud's only had one header. I mean, if he gets that header in the bottom corner, you're still in the pub now, right? We're still on it. And that is the fine lines of football. And Giroud's had his chance. He hasn't quite taken it. But we played for that moment and we didn't score, right? And then we go away 1-1. It's on that Wenger sort of 20-year sort of explosion of insight. He spoke about something that was quite interesting. He said, when you lose a game, it's very important that you do everything in your power not to lose the next game. Because if you get to the third game, you're in crisis. Well, I thought that's a real insight to how a top manager thinks. So I flipped that in my head to Pochettino, right? He's lost a game on Wednesday night in front of 85,000 people. He picked a team not to lose that game. It's as simple as that. And we ran up against a 6-foot-plus man mounting of a team. And we couldn't quite get the edge. And it comes back to what we started with was, we all have a mental benchmark to how we approach the game, and that dictates how we're going to assess the game and summarise the game in our own minds, and that dictates level of frustration. And I think for once we felt we were going to win this game, we were going to give them a Chelsea-type spanking, and they turned up and said, no way, you're not going to beat us today. We might not win it, but we're going to make sure we're going to pick 5 defenders. We're going to have 2 big lumps in centre mid, and we're going to make it difficult for you. You know what? We nearly made them play. We nearly if they had to come from one behind 20 minutes to go, I don't think they had the creativity to do it. And we could have took them on the break and we had the bench to do it. But that penalty really cost us because we didn't hold the lead long enough to really test their game plan. So their game plan was able to last for the entire game, or apart from maybe 6 minutes, and so they could be big bodies, they could foul, they could disrupt, because they never had to chase the game. And the only time they chased it, they got a reward. They got the pen. So so that's how I saw it, mate. Okay, any other thoughts?
No, mate, just Old Trafford next, isn't it? And we got a little break for ourselves, but yeah, we got some massive games coming. Old Trafford, PSG, right into Christmas, City away. It's going to be
Everton away in there as well.
Everton away midweek as well, and we got to sort this out. It's not exactly going wrong, is it? But let's be honest, we want to start winning games again, and Old Trafford's massive for us because we've not winning this game. I think now that United team, we all know they're not quite in their stride. They've got great players, but they're not. Mourinho doesn't seem to know how to get out of it, and let's go and put one on them hopefully. But
they're mannequins, mate. They're mannequins.
They are, mate. Let's move round.
I'm gutted that Zlatan is actually suspended because now they might play Rashford.
Yeah.
And we don't want him running in behind us. So I'm actually mortified about that because Mourinho would have played him right back. So I'm gutted that he's going to be probably at centre forward and we're going to have to run. Right. So, but you know what I've taken from this Spurs game is we've got a lot of big games coming up, and I think this is a time for big players. Right. This is a time for men. This is our moment now. We're going to Northwest, 2-3 times away. We can't be going there with kids, I'm afraid.
Yeah, be strong.
We got to go there with men. I don't discount even, players like Gabriel having some time on the pitch in the next few weeks. We need to really man up when we go to these grounds and say, we're here to play. We are going to impose our game on you. I felt Spurs won that on Sunday. They imposed our game on us first. We reacted to that. I think it's really important if we've got thoughts about being champions, we need to impose our game on people and really man up against them and make it a small pitch, technical, fast moving game. And we've got to do that 3 or 4 times in a month. And it's got to work, right? Because otherwise we're going to fade away normal November style, and that would be a real shame.
Exactly, mate, and it's going to be exciting and going into Christmas. I hope it don't ruin my Christmas, but I'm happy and I'm confident. I hope we can sort this left side out soon, and Wenger knows what he's doing. And I wouldn't be adverse to in January, like you said, propping up that left side and giving ourselves another option. But that's one for another day, mate. But I enjoyed the North London derby, and I'm glad I ain't got to experience another one for a while because it's
too traumatic.
Too traumatic, mate. It takes a lot out of me. It turns you into someone you ain't, and you just lose the plot. And I can't be throwing fry-ups on my lap every morning. Do you know what I mean? It's just I can't be having that. So
I've got to take your Twitter account off you on North London derby games.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, definitely. I'll just lose the plot. I'm gonna throw my phone in a river next time and just come back a few days later and have a little chat.
It was, but anyway, thanks for coming on, mate. It was a great chat.
Top man, loved it.
Really enjoyed it. I hope you guys out there have got a bit of insight into the game. The Gooner Ramble, you know where it is: YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud. Please give us a go and enjoy Old Trafford. Cheers.
This podcast is sponsored by the Tollington Arms on Hornsey Road, a bubbly pub with a Thai kitchen home to thousands of Arsenal fans every season. Open daily from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. and from 12 p.m. on Sundays.